Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now January 21st of 2023. There's a lot of things happening between Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, the Disney board members, and exactly what Jon and Dave are up to with their plans for the upcoming Star Wars material, of how they are about to revise, of course, all their plans, and really bringing in Star Wars legends into the mix, and how that's really going to work hand in hand with the current Disney canon material. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the kind and great support. Now, one thing that we do know about Bob Iger is that, given that I have had a lot of criticism over him over the past couple of years, I gotta at least give him some form of credit for turning things around somewhat. He's allowing Chapek's initial plans for Jon and Dave to have all these privileges over at Lucasfilm to remain as is. So that's not going to be changed, that's grandfathered in, that's not going anywhere, and that's the great thing about what Jon and Dave are doing right now, is that they are using their privileges over at Lucasfilm to tell great stories, to tell basically things that have never been done before in the Star Wars franchise. And that brings us to Bob Iger and what he recently did that I think is healthy for the Star Wars franchise for those that had a lot of problems with a specific Star Wars project. Now, that brings us to exactly, what this is going to mean for the future, how this is going to reshape Star Wars under Disney, and exactly where it's all going to go eventually, alright? So, with that being all said and done, alright, one thing, of course, that a lot of fans are very much concerned about is what's going on with Kathleen Kennedy as well, with Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte. And we already went over that, of how there's so many setbacks with those shows because it's gonna really kind of do a lot of retcons toward the sequels, or should I say, the prequels, and or the originals. And that's one thing that a lot of fans are not happy about. However, with Disney CEO Bob Iger making major adjustments behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm to create a better future for the franchise, one of the big adjustments has to do with firing and hiring new creators that are attached to Lucasfilm, and will also become a part of the company as well. Now, most recently, Iger made a big shift in which creators will be working with Jon and Dave and those who will be laid off from the company. One of the writers that Bob Iger recently fired was no other than Joby Harold, the creator of the Kenobi series. Now, Joby was initially fired by Bob Chapek from the second Kenobi season that's in the works. However, now, Bob Iger actually fired Joby Harold entirely and will not be returning for any Star Wars TV shows, period, and or projects at all, as he has been fired from Lucasfilm with no plans to bring him back for anything else in the near future. Now, let me pause here for a second. For those of you that don't know, Joby Harold was the writer of the Kenobi series, and he openly made it clear and stated to the fans that he never watched Revenge of the Sith from start to finish, that he never saw that movie in its entirety. And I think that really just goes to show you that there are creators that Kathleen Kennedy picked and chose from that really just did not fit the overall structure of Star Wars at all. And I think that's why you had a lot of problems with the Kenobi series, a lot of, lore that didn't seem to make much sense here and there, is because Joby Harold never really watched the entire episode 3 movie, Revenge of the Sith. He didn't watch it from start to finish, let alone watching it multiple times. It's kind of like how Rupert Friend, the guy who played, of course, the Grand Inquisitor, he openly said that he refused to watch the Clone Wars, and that he does not even want to watch it. And yet, in the Clone Wars, or even, Rebels, or any kind of animated show out there, it just goes to show you that these actors don't care about the brand. And that's one thing that I like about when it comes to at least somebody like Mark Hamill, who respects the brand, who likes the brand, or somebody out there, for example, like Ewan McGregor and Hayden, that love the franchise. Because, let's face it, especially when it comes to Hayden, Ewan, and Mark, it really kind of jump-started their career and really kind of put them more into the spotlight. Unfortunately for Hayden and Mark, they kind of fell to the wayside, but thankfully they're now coming back in true fashion. Now, with that being said and all, given that Bob Iger fired Joby Harold entirely now is a good thing. I think it's a great thing. Now, like I said, the Kenobi series has its good moments. It does. It has a couple of moments here and there that are pretty interesting and well shot and well edited. But the entirety of the show from start to finish, I would say, is a bit of a drag. It's really not anything close to what we could have got by Stuart Beattie, the original writer, by the way, of the Kenobi movie trilogy that's going to become a part of the soft reboot. And we'll be talking about that later on. Now, the thing about this too, he goes on, of course, to really make sure that adjustments are going to stay in play here. Bob Iger's making sure of that. Now, Disney is said to be well aware that the Kenobi rewatch value is very low, and that fan reception was more negative than positive. Currently, the Disney board is on a mission to only hire talented writers that have invested their time into getting to know the Star Wars brand, and or those that are actual Star Wars fans who are also creators to make the best products possible. Now, Iger recently just finalized the firing of Joby Harold, and that only Favreau and Filoni will be handling the soft reboot of the Kenobi series that will serve as a sequel as well. Kathleen Kennedy is said to be very unhappy about Iger's decision about all of this at no surprise. Once again, this is a writer that Kathleen Kennedy chose. Alright? This is a writer that Kathleen Kennedy picked out and allowed to write the Kenobi series. So obviously she's going to have a problem with Iger firing him for good and saying, you're not coming back. So it really would have been an interesting scenario if we had somebody like Stuart Beattie, the original writer, if he was the one that wrote the Kenobi series. Because this is a guy that really cares about the character. He's a guy that really cares about the brand. And let's face it, given that we have Favreau and Filoni coming back for the soft reboot of the Kenobi series, which is in the very early stages, I must add, but they're also trying to get Stuart Beattie on board as the main writer, with Favreau and Filoni being co-writers, is what they want to do. We'll be learning a lot more about this throughout the next couple of months. It's an ever-evolving process, and they want to get this Kenobi sequel out in the coming years. So, the thing that Bob Iger did here, I think, was fine and healthy for the franchise, for the fans as well, and I think it just needed to be done. I don't think you can have a creator that knows very little about the brand to be running the show. It's why I think fans should worry quite a bit when it comes to Leslie Headland for The Acolyte, where she openly stated that she is not a Star Wars fan at all, really, and that she never watched the prequels from start to finish. And that this is just an opportunity that she's very interested to take up. So, obviously, things like that kind of worry fans. But overall, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about each and every one of, these scenarios below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.